All right, I'm going to get started. 7 o'clock. Welcome, everyone, to Robert Monroe's Far Journeys, chapters 13, 14, and 15 tonight. This gets on some crazy adventures with Robert Monroe and his Inspecs and his little friends that he meets up with, AA and BB. So, a lot to talk about tonight. A lot of different adventures. I'm just going to go through the list up here, do a little round of introductions, and you can always pass. Just don't answer when I call your name. Just keep your mute button on. And I know you don't want to say anything, so, which is cool. So, I'll start with myself. I'm Juice out of New York, and that's where I'm currently hosting these discussion groups. And I'm currently working on the Gateway program. I'm going through it right now, and I'm in the discovery section of it. It's really interesting. I started the Gateway program before in the past, but never finished it. So this is the farthest I've ever been, and I'm in my third week doing it. Pretty interesting stuff. I'm enjoying it. Not too many out-of-body experiences with it, but different ways of looking at the out-of-body experience. So I won't complain. It's great. It's Robert Monroe's material. Loving it. And we'll see where it takes me to the end and how it incorporates with the books and stuff like that. I see a lot of correlations between the two, so it's pretty cool to see that. All right. And hey, Marty, I like the mask there.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
So anyway, you generally that thing's on that says this is being recorded and all that. And that's all well and good. And then the other day, I'm looking on my big 70-inch screen television on the wall, surfing around on YouTube, and there was one of our sessions, and there was my big old face going across my 70-inch TV.
Aww.
Oh, now I see why you guys all want to go incognito, and you guys with the beards get to hide half of your face. Let's see. I definitely went out, okay, but I went out and I went right back in, and then I went out and I went right back in, and then I went out a third time. This was all in like 10 minutes, and I like sat up, and my leg was stuck onto my leg, and I leaned over and I grabbed onto my leg, and I was trying to pull it out. Has anybody ever had this happen? I was pulling it and pulling it. I couldn't get it unstuck. The rest of me was loose, but my leg was still in my leg, my physical leg. And then something happened. I went back in, and that was the end of that. So that was my big excitement. But I mean, I guess that's better than nothing. I don't know.
Oh yeah, getting different body parts stuck and stuff like that. That's definitely part of the process.
Oh, that happens to other people?
Oh yeah. It happens to other people. I know from experience from talking to other people and reading up on it, and it's happened to myself many times. Just my last out of body experience, I had that happen. I only got half of my body out. Yeah.
So what do you do? Is there anything you can do?
You just have to keep working on it, use affirmations, and be demanding, like William Buman says. So basically, free myself now. Focus on something farther away. Focus on an object somewhere in your room. Focus on an object somewhere outside your apartment if you feel like you might get sucked back to your body.
I found a really big help is to use the hands or whatever part of you that is free to tap and touch the part of you that's not yet free.
Well, I did that. I was holding on. I was grabbing onto my leg that was stuck.
Oh, I see.
And pulling it with all might. I couldn't get it out.
But your emphasis was on the yanking and the moving and the tugging. But if instead you just want to wake up with what it feels like to be not your physical leg, you want to use your non-physical hand to, like, kind of say, like, the same way you would scratch your leg to become aware of it, precisely where it is. So rather than try to fight it and move the whole thing at once, go like inch by inch and just kind of tap awake, tap awake, tap awake. Just a different mental intention.
So give those a try. What Steph said, what I said, and just keep doing. It's pretty common. So just keep doing your homework on it, and it'll be a thing of the past. But at least you're getting out to a certain extent. So I mean,
I was, and then who was it? Was it Julie? I'm not sure if I got the right name there. That was talking about Frank Keppel. Have you ever read Frank Keppel? Anybody? He's got a whole lot of hundreds of pages of stuff and he's a big Monroe guy. He's one of the superstars, you know, one of the like 30-year projectors.
Yeah, me, Julie.
Yeah, and that whole thing is like so different from everything else that I had been trying to do, where you're supposed to like focus on the top of your head and then just observe and not try to do any techniques or anything. And I have been having like no luck at all with that, but I thought maybe I just need to give it more time. But anyway, if anybody, Julie, you use the Frank Keppel method of looking at the top of your head, or does it work for you?
I've used 50 methods. And strangely, the only one that worked was relaxing. To be honest, just completely relaxing. But kind of what works for me is but hey, I'm such an amateur. Nobody should listen to me. But what seems to kind of work for me is that I almost just I pretend like I'm going to go to sleep. Like I'm telling myself, I do everything I need to do to be so comfortable. Because for me, it's hard. It's different for everybody. Like for me, it's really hard for me to relax my body when I know that my plan is to try and get out of my body. It's like counterproductive. So I have to just go, okay, I'm going to just fall asleep. And I allow myself to get to the edge of sleep. And that's when I start using my methods, sort of very gently, though. I have to be really gentle and not forceful about it. If I'm forceful, it just messes it up. Like if I'm trying too hard, if you will. So it seems like the times that are best is when I'm just like, okay, I know that I'm in that zone and I'm just gonna go with the flow. But I have to really gently keep my focus or my consciousness there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Marty. I love the mask too. It's so cool.
Yeah, did I miss the memo? The mask.
I think we should all have masks on. Or actually, we do. We have our physical masks on.
Yes.
Oh.
Monica, would you like to do an introduction of maybe where you're from and an out-of-body experience you would like to share?
I live in Arizona. I've got some familiarity with the Monroe Institute. I was there for the Gateway program. Didn't go out of body there, but went through the program.
What year?
That was in 2006.
Okay.
I also went through the tapes at one point. But most of the time, my out-of-body experiences are without me trying to do anything. I can't seem to do it on command. When I was a child, I did. I had a way of being able to get out of my body. I would just imagine some ropes hanging down from the ceiling and just lay there until my hands, not my real hands, but I would just try to climb up those ropes. And when I finally could do that, then I could climb out of my body. My most recent one is I got a pyramid, and I got underneath the pyramid to see what would happen. And I laid down, and the next thing I knew, I was outside the pyramid looking at myself
Right.
So I'm here to learn. And like I said, I just found out about this meeting yesterday afternoon or evening. So I haven't had a chance to read those chapters.
That's okay. A lot of people haven't. So you'll hopefully pick up some stuff here and continue your out-of-body exploration. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
David, what's up, David? How are you?
Hey everybody, hi Juice, hi all, I'm back. I see Marty's on. Who else is here? Julie, Joanne, Thomas, Steph. Cool. Yeah, I'm glad to be back. I had my first, I believe I had my first OBE actually in this group a couple of weeks, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or a month ago. Ever since I haven't had anything that level, but the last week I've been having lucid dreams, and then last night I had a conscious lucid dream, which was really, really cool. So that's me. All right, thanks.
Awesome.
I like this group, by the way.
Thanks, David. Yeah, and congratulations on the lucid dream.
Thanks, Juice.
Hi, Juan. What's new?
Not much to report. No activities.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
glad you're back.
No, yes. Glad I'm back. Yeah.
Thanks, Juan. Julie. Hi, Julie.
Hello. I already kind of said hi, kind of, sort of.
So what's new? What's new?
Same old stuff. Just researching and practicing. I feel like last night I was practicing all night in a sense. Have you ever had those nights where you're like determined and then you start off trying and then you feel like you're going in and out the entire night and you wake up really exhausted? I don't know if you've all done that before. And I feel like and I think you were sharing this too, Juice, like when you started up again, like thinking about it, talking about it, you started having more dreams and then maybe a lucid dream here and there. And I feel like that's happened to me too. Like my dream, I'm just constantly dreaming and remembering more dreams. And then what I'm also starting to remember now is I feel like I'm constantly in this semi-vibrational state. Like every time I wake up, you know, every couple hours or whatever, you kind of come out of sleep in that sleep cycle. And I sense I sense the vibrations. I sense something happening. Oh, I forgot to share with you on the last time, the night before, practicing as usual. And I had a dream. I was dreaming. It wasn't a lucid dream. And I was dreaming. And I was in a kind of like a classroom, but it was a classroom with cots that you can sleep on, you know, meditate on, whatever. And there were some teachers there at the front of the room. And it was, I feel like it was almost Native American kind of, you know, drums and teaching, perhaps some kind of spiritual teaching in that sense. And the teacher was saying, okay, now we're going to try and see who can come to this meditative state and go out of body. Let's do it. And whatever she was saying. And I felt like in that moment, I came out of my dream and I felt, it's hard to describe, but I know there's this, it's not the vibrations, it's this, the way I want to say it is sort of a sinking sensation, because I don't know how else to describe it. It's not really a sink. I have had sinking sensations before, so it's not exactly that, but it's this weird flow in your body, and you feel like I totally feel like a consciousness shift. And I felt that in that moment. So I kind of became aware. So I came out of the dream at the same time. It was happening in the dream, and then it helped me come out of the dream and become conscious. But I didn't go anywhere after that. But I thought it was I'm so constantly thinking about it. It's so in my subconscious all the time. Now I'm dreaming about it. And I thought it was quite interesting that a dream can even take you into this out of like this state and into this into the, not just the vibrations, but into this level where I probably could have, if I were more skilled, exit at that time.
Right.
So I wasn't even lucid in the dream. So I'm just saying that the more we talk about it and think about it, and it's on our mind, like our subconscious dreams can even take us to that level.
Right. And it's so easy. I found out through the years, it's so easy to get drawn right back and grounded back here on Earth again. And then the experiences will just disappear. And you're lucky
Yeah.
if you can even remember your dreams.
Yeah. So interesting.
So you're at the right end of it right now. And me too, getting there. It seems like a lot of people on here.
Yeah.
So the more that we keep thinking about it, I guess we get to experience it more.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Julie.
Yeah.
Oh, Steph. Yes. Can you talk?
I'm parked. So I want to share an experience of today. The radio told me that the governor of Texas has lifted the mask mandate.
Oh, yeah, that's big news.
Yeah. So I went into a fast food place and I asked, what's the policy now? And she said, well, we haven't heard anything from our CEO yet, but so it's up to you. And I'm like, wow, the freedom is up to me. Oh, this is great. So,
Steph, what dimension are you guys in Texas?
oh, I think this is a timeline merge. We're back to normal now. There was some weird ass fluke last year. So let's see.
Any experiences stuff going on? You had any time to practice with your working?
I haven't had an out of body experience and I haven't had a lucid for a couple months, but I've had these like kind of transcendent weird experiences. So I'm not complaining. Let's see. Someone mentioned a minute ago, being stuck in your body. Yes, I've had that many times. It's very frustrating. I'm usually stuck in my head, which is the worst because I can't even see what I'm doing. I just have to kind of trust the experience. Let's see. Well, yeah. So I've had kind of this neat feeling of expansion. I've had just kind of like shamanic stuff happen. Lots of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a bookstore and I asked in my head just for fun, what page of this book should I read? And it said 55. So like, okay, whatever. And then my hands popped open to the page 55. So, okay, that's cool. Stuff like that. Lots of stuff like that. So that's my update.
Cool. Thanks, Steph. Steph's the one that runs the Austin Astral Projection group.
Yep. Which will be coming back very soon now.
Awesome. Keep an eye on for upcoming stuff on the meetup group.
In-person mask-free experiences.
Right. Thanks, Steph. Juwan, you got a question?
Not a question. I just want to give some response to what Julie shared, because in my early attempts to have astral projection, this was after being as a child. I used to project a lot, and that continued. But at some point, I had to learn how to do it myself. So one of the first stages that I focused on was on lucid dreaming, because I found out that within lucid dreaming can also be used as like a springboard or a gateway to gain access into the astral plane. So, but I used to have these dreams, which is why I'm coming back to what Julie said, and I would be in a class. It's like a classroom setting, but the subject could be anything. It could be about concentration. It could be a meditation. It could be so many um, subjects. But I found out that a lot of people had uh, similar dreams like that. And but there was one thing about the ones that I had is that after the class, after coming out of the classroom, it was all I was always able to try and initiate an out of body experience. So I was reading someone's comments around that thing, and he said those dreams are called OBE simulation dreams. In other words, they help you to initiate um, astral projection. In those cases, when you are experiencing them, you are not you are in a semi-lucid state, in the sense that you're following it the way you normally follow, like in a dream, but you don't have full aware, you don't have the full awareness as to act that. Oh yes, I'm in a, you're not, you're semi-conscious, semi-lucid in those dreams. But in mine, I found that when I wake up, I find out I have vibrations. It comes with a certain kind of vibrations, which could actually lead into astral projection. On quite a few occasions, I've been able to project whilst I've had those kind of experiences, which happen on a dream and kind of filtered into becoming an astral projection.
Yeah, Monroe talks about that too. About the simulations, and he calls them basically a training area while you're out of body.
Yes, a training area. Yes,
Yeah.
Yes. He mentions it too. Yes.
All right, guys, here we go. Chapters 13, 14, and 15. Far Journeys. And chapter 13, Shock Treatment. So here we go. Monroe's starting to adjust to the idea of loosh and all the information that he got from the Rote, that information packet of what loosh is here on Earth and the energy. And he's in a complete cycle of shock, rejections, anger, depression, resignation, acceptance. All these feelings he's getting from this loosh Rote. And then Monroe starts to wonder, who are the loosh collectors or the overseers? Who are the people that are collecting this loosh energy? Was it the Inspecs? And if anybody forgot, Inspecs is intelligent species, one of the higher up people that he meets out of body. And Monroe wants to find out who's collecting this loosh. So Monroe had never tried to go to the Inspecs. They've always come to him. So it was hard to get an ident on them. And ident is a type of thing, that a cue that they use to home in on somebody, their ident. So we all have idents, either humans or other species or beings. And then Monroe, suddenly he finds the Inspecs at a site that they met before. And the Inspecs have an ident name from Monroe. And they call him Ashaneen. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's a name that they come up for him as his ident. And to Monroe, the name sounded familiar and strange at the same time. And since Monroe can't totally remember his past, he does have a feeling for the name that they gave him. So as I'm rambling off here, if anybody has a question or they want to interject, just throw a hand up. And for anybody who doesn't know, that's down towards the reactions part. You can raise your hand. So Monroe goes into a long discussion about loosh love. So gets into this loosh/love, and the Inspecs gave him some examples of this and what produces loosh and stuff like that. And then he finds out that the Inspecs are not the gardeners of the loose energy. So they're not the ones that are harvesting this here. So I guess he's kind of happy on that. The Inspecs have been watching and participating in human experience, sometimes without ruining the learning experience for humans. So they've been here since the beginning, but they didn't create us. The Inspecs take Monroe to observe a place, to feel where there is so much love. And then they do a click, and boom, that's a consciousness change. The click is a consciousness change into a different area. And so when they get into this new area that the Inspecs take them to, Monroe has to shield himself because the energy is so strong. It's overwhelming to him. And being who he is out of body right now, he can't take that much energy. So the Inspecs are the ones that are actually shielding him. And the Inspecs say to Monroe that he's responding very well to his first exposure of this energy, this love energy. And then after they show him this love energy / loosh, they take him out of there with another click. And there's another consciousness change. So the Inspecs have no precept of a beginning and how they were created or how humans were created. Only in time should they find out the reason for this. So Monroe wants to know how we were created, how they were created, and it's still a mystery. So that's a runaround through chapter 13. Does anybody have any questions on chapter 13 they want to bring up?
I remember the first time I read that book, Loosh was so out of context, I just kind of forgot about it and phased or something. And then the second time I read it, it's like, whoa, that was in there? Oh my God, that's a really deep topic.
Yeah.
And now I'm surprised it's in the second book. I thought that was in the third book. So, wow. Yeah, there's another audio I listened to. This guy does DMT and then shares and then like has conversations with the medicine and then does a YouTube lecture on what he learns and what he asked them and how they answered. And Lucia is a really big topic there too, where it's like that's kind of like the battery juice of the Matrix. And like at one point, he asked to show me how it all works. How does the back the code or whatever, how does the backing of this world function? And he was so disturbed he didn't want to share what it was.
We brought up last time, Stephanie, last meeting, that the Matrix and how they used humans as batteries. Well, the loosh is what we produce kind of in the same way as like the battery juice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very good point, Steph. And it's
like,
funny. It's like the Mandela effect. It's like reading these books again. It's like things are out of order than what I remember.
Was there anything you completely forgot was in there?
There was bits and pieces, but nothing comes to mind right now. But as I go over this stuff, some stuff comes up. It's like, wow, how did I not remember that before? I just remember saying that a lot as I'm reading it again.
I'll share an experience related to that. So
Yeah.
I was really bored one day and I was watching that, channel 2 kind of thing, channel, evangelicals. And it said, close your eyes and visualize your heart as barn doors open into Jesus. And I was bored enough to give that a try. And I got this kind of like hardline connection to this energy cloud. It was weird. And I kind of traced where it was coming from. And it was like this big, like stadium-sized cloud in the sky of prayers, of people's thoughts, worries, hopes, positive sentiment, negative sentiment, all just like hanging out in the air regionally. So I'm like, whoa. So that's like love loosh in a way.
Mm.
That if you have unguided, you're sending your heart out to this ambivalent something and you don't have a good idea what that is. You don't have a high vibration, inspec, or whatever, ident, you don't have an ident on God, then you might ambiently just like send your stuff out into the air, literally, and it can clump with like concepts, merge with like concepts. And I was able to tap into that just by following the same intention that they did when they put it out there.
So, Steph, would you say that, or anyone, that love loosh, does love produce a lot of loosh? I don't totally get a understanding on that, if love is actually producing loosh.
I would, so you can sometimes interchange loosh with chi. So let's say, so loosh is more like the battery stuff that negative energies feed on, right? And so we think of it as fear, but you can use the same stuff as a high vibe. It just is, it's a different purpose. So like the worst thing I ever heard of was like someone who intentionally like attracts attention from multiple people, kind of like a cult, right? And kind of gathers and stores 100 people's love energy, let's say. And then when a newcomer comes into the cult, they can just beam that shit at that person. And that person's overwhelmed, like, wow, there's something really here. Oh, so I feel a presence. They must be in touch with angels. I feel so loved and welcome here. And then they're hooked. And then a week later, it goes away because they're not, they're sold now. They don't need to waste energy on that person. And so that person's like, wow, where'd that go? Weird. Well, I'd better keep coming back. I mean, if it's here once, it'll be here again, right? And they can keep gathering members that way.
Julie?
Yeah, this whole concept is kind of confusing for me. Yeah, it did remind me of the Monsters Inc. too. If you've ever seen Monsters Inc., that they were getting loosh off the fear of the children. But Steph, are you saying like not just the physical realm, like this kind of trickery, scam artist kind of thing, con artist, whatever, negative entity kind of situation can go on. There can be cults, i.e. cults or whatever, in the lower astral or maybe even the higher astral realms where they sort of try to get maybe people who are passing on or, that are not in the know so much, or that they're very highly religious. And so they kind of get sucked in really easily to that mentality. Oh yeah, this must be heaven or the God place. And so, cause is that what you're kind of saying? Cause that's a bummer. Cause now, this kind of thinking makes me all freaked out for my kids, or people I love. I don't want them to get tricked. This is a minority, this group. I feel like still this understanding of all these different dimensions and astral realms, and people don't just know this stuff. This is still quite in the minority. So if it's helpful for people to know this when, before they die, maybe that's where there's so many retrievals. You've heard of the soul retrieval stuff going on all the time to help people see the light. Like, hey, you don't have to be down here, or you don't have to be in this one, like giving all your energy to this one group. There's all kinds of things to explore. So any advice or stuff that you want to share with me to calm
Yes,
thank
for
you.
sure. So both, that happens with human beings on the physical level that build physical cults, but it also happens on the non-physical level, and it happens in the higher planes. Yes. If you Google false light or false lights, that's so the typical near-death experience. You die, you're drawn into a light tunnel, and then you feel this love and you feel welcome and home, but they quickly redirect your attention to all of your failures and say, oh, right, you really should have done better. You ready to try again? And it's like, whoa, what happened to like hanging out and getting relief and time out, right?
Right.
But so yes, there, and to some degree that could be innocent, and to some degree that could be both. Like the person talking to you could be innocent, but was brainwashed by something higher than that to
Mhm.
try to encourage recycling. Yeah, so there's a lot of like there's a lot of deception on this planet, right? Like so it
Yes.
would only logically follow that it isn't so black and white, that we aren't, oh, we're all knowing the moment we die and it's all lifted and
Right.
everything's obvious.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope.
So
I wonder though, like how long does it take before it's like there's so much out there and learning. And I
it's
would
like
hope that.
solutions, right? Yeah. So solutions is skip all that junk, like go straight to the top, go straight to the high vibe, go straight to ultimate source. Don't loiter in like what you thought. Like if there's any like hint of doubt, go higher. So I just like a month ago I finished reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead. uh, they actually have it on YouTube, so if you're a slow reader like me, you can actually
Nice.
finish the thing. Yeah. So it says this book was meant to be written or read aloud to someone who's about to cross, but
Mm.
there is no disadvantage to reading it now for yourself. On a subconscious level, you will have remembered every single word. So it is beneficial to read that book in advance.
But so
It's
so like people like Cyrus, for example, or Jurgen, who have as astral travelers, they haven't had NDEs, but they've done lots of OBEs. They're saying like going to the middle astral, there's nothing wrong with that. Although you can still be tricked on the middle astral. It's a beautiful realm. You can visit with your loved ones. You can explore. It's not a quote unquote negative or bad place, although you can run into negative energies. I feel like what you're saying is, just don't even bother with that level. Just go on to the higher mental levels.
well, like play it safe. So go as high as you can stand. Like go into the like Monroe was describing, like love zones where it's so
Yeah.
insane, like so strong you can barely stand it. Like find your limit
Okay.
and start there, and then you can always go backwards, right? Like so from
Uh,
that higher, yeah, from
right.
that higher
Right.
perspective, you get your anchor and you get a
Oh,
sense of,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, in
right?
Monroe, he goes in and out of the different. He calls them the rings, in and out of different rings.
Yes, yes. And which again, that relates to like the law of one sort of levels or densities, I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, but still, what do you, I know Marty had her hand
Y-
raised much earlier, but I was curious, like, again, like, 'cause I can't help but have a little bit of like concern for like my kids, for example. So like if I pass on, do you guys know, does anyone know that I could, help them when they are ready to cross over and stuff, and not so they don't get stuck in lower realms and get tricked.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
hold influence, whether or not they can hear you physically. Like, so you're telepathic. So right now you could talk to them telepathically, but they won't probably listen. But when they're in that delicate state where they're about to cross, they will hear you. And
Okay.
just having the concern, having the mental image of there being a kind of potentially fake place and a real place, just holding that in mind
Okay.
for them is that alone. They'll pick up on it and they'll get the gist of what you're trying to get
I mean, there's
across. And
so many I would feel like I would want to help, or
yeah,
just
yeah.
of course my children, but yeah.
Susan was good. She's good with that. She helps a lot of people. She talks about this. Susan Taylor that's on here, Julie.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, she does that a lot. She helps. And there's a certain ring that Monroe talks about that you can just be in that ring and just help humans cross over. Because some humans when they leave they get lost and they can't help other people cross over, so they help
Yeah.
the people that are human that are crossing, and then they help the people that are stuck in other rings to get out of those rings and get to a
Yeah.
higher area.
That brings me a little bit of hope. I actually just was texting Susan to give me Marty's FB information because I don't think she checked the little chat. I'd love to connect with Marty on Facebook. Susan can't make it again tonight. Lots of stuff going on.
Yeah.
But she's
Uh,
gonna be here Friday.
Marty, go ahead, Marty. Thanks for waiting.
By the way, on
Thank you.
Facebook, I'm Gary Herpes. I just never changed it into mine. But so that's what you'd look for is Gary.
Gary, what?
Gary Herp, H-E-R-P.
HRP. Okay. Perfect.
H-E-R, right. I was just there was a note in that chapter 13 about the Inspecs, where they said that it was vitally important to them to be able to help when people's loosh was blocked, is the way they put it. So I was just wondering, you know, what is these Inspecs? Are they all in like one community, or why is it, or we're fulfilling a need for them to be able to help us somehow with the loosh? I don't know. Does anybody got any idea on that?
Monroe says that the Inspecs are helping us, but he feels that they're so intelligent, how could we be helping them? But the Inspecs admit that we are helping them in a certain way, but can't totally understand the way that we're helping them since they're so intelligent and such higher up than us. Does anybody else have any info on the Inspecs intelligent level of how we're helping each other?
No, I'm not sure. Any reference of like, oh, this relates to any rank or non-physical. So it might even be custom to Monroe. He might have a group that's more interested in him than others.
Juan?
Let me come. Yeah. But the only way from what I understand, those Inspecs have not been humans, have they? They've not had a physical life before.
As far as I remember, no.
Yeah, well, it would be that's the only thing we're bringing to the table, our life experience.
Right.
Because that's the only thing that he would have brought to the table. So they are learning from that since they've not had an earthly experience. You know, because the earthly experience is for the strong ones.
A what experience?
Yeah. Right. And Monroe's in the strong category, the last timers.
Yeah.
Have we guys no humans have ever experienced a non-human like a life on a incarnation on another planet?
Are you asking humans incarnated on another planet?
For example, Juice, could you have possibly incarnated on another planet as well as being incarnated here? Could you have experienced life on another planet, or do you guys not know?
From reading Monroe's book, I would say yes to that, because Monroe's been wiped out his memory of where he's been before this.
Right.
And he feels like he's been in other places that feel like home to him that he talks about.
Right.
So I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would say yes to that too. I would say because I've experienced that. I've had an experience of that before. The technology that I experienced there was similar to the technology here, but also very, very advanced and very different in a way. It was hard for me to comprehend it. You have to have some kind of scientific or technical knowledge to be able to appreciate the kind of technology they have in these other physical planets.
I also want to see Inspecs that have not had a human physical experience, if they have, however, had some other kind of three-dimensional experience on another planet, not necessarily like ours, but some other kind of, you know, when you talk about the densities and the rings, they probably would have gone through, you would think, unless are these Inspecs like from a completely different universe, or we don't know? I guess we don't know that.
Yeah, we don't know. Monroe doesn't know, and at this point, where they're coming from, and he knows that they don't know how life began for themselves, the Inspecs, and for humans, where this all started from.
Right.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna move us into chapter 14 called One Easy Lesson. And this chapter starts with Monroe finding his good old buddy BB. We're back to BB and AA again. So as you remember last little recap, AA and BB came from KT95, an area called KT95, and they went on a cruise to visit Earth. And when they came here, AA decided to become human because he loved it so much. He loved the M-band noise and stuff, and he loved the experience, and he wanted to experience it. So he went through the Earth entry system and entered in and did all the paperwork and stuff and became human and started to lose himself here as becoming human. And his friend BB starts to get upset and sad because he wants to go back home to KT95. And AA is stuck here now, reincarnating as human through different lifetimes. Monroe meets up with BB. Monroe can't believe that BB's just hanging around here, waiting for AA to finish his life. And as we remember, that BB has no concept of time like humans do. So he's just hanging out, not worrying about how much time passes by. And then they start talking to each other, and BB wants Monroe to teach him about being human without going into a human body. So this is where this chapter is starting to lead us, is Monroe's going to take BB on a journey and teach him as much as he can about being human and why AA is so addicted over here now, becoming human. The first thing that Monroe teaches BB is that to be human is learning to survive. And that's the biggest precept of all, is survival, human surviving. And then Monroe is now pulling BB around, so they're following each other's ident around Earth, and different rings around Earth, so different levels of Earth, even where people are dead and stuck, and higher levels and stuff like that. And he takes BB to a spot where a deer is killed, and BB doesn't understand this, you know, why a human just killed a deer. And he tells him it's for food, and humans are on top of the food chain. We kind of talked a little bit about the food chain last time. And then after that, he shows him a hut where this deer is being brought to, and he shows the family of everybody that's surviving off this deer, the wife and kids. And then suddenly, BB is looking at two humans having sex to reproduce. And Monroe has to describe to him, like, what's going on. Why are those two humans doing that with each other? And Monroe puts it that they're putting their two energies together to form another energy. So BB finds this very interesting of humans mating. And BB asks Monroe if he's ever been a female. And as far as Monroe knows, he has no Rote, which is his information packet on it. So he's not sure if he's ever been a female before. And BB finds out that Monroe is actually a male by asking him, are you a male or female? And he's like, I'm a male. And then after that, they head out to good old Manhattan, New York City. He wants to give him a good taste again. Even though BB's been there on his cruise through the universe, they stopped there in the beginning in New York City with all the M-band noise. And as they get to New York City again, the M-band noises start up, and it, you know, drives BB a little crazy again of all the chatter that's in human minds that's leaked out, called M-band. So after Monroe shows him all this stuff in New York City, all these different situations of dead people walking around, real people walking around. So there's actually dead people walking around that they see, that they think they're still human. They can't believe they died. So they're actually still walking around New York City, pretending like they're actually drinking or interacting with humans that are still alive, but they're actually dead. So they're confused. Nobody's helped them out of it yet. And then BB said at one point that this human experience is too messed up. And if he was human, he would just hang around and make copies of himself. So basically just hang around and have sex. So then suddenly Monroe gets called back to his body, and BB stuck there until the next day. And he felt bad because, you know, Monroe gets pulled back to his body for some reason why he got pulled back, but he didn't know why this time. But he felt bad because his friend BB now was stuck in New York City all by himself. And then the next day, Monroe got out of his body again, and guess what? When he got out of his body, BB was waiting for him in his office. So Monroe went into his office to have his out-of-body experience during an afternoon nap, and BB actually followed his ident, and he met him there in his office, which I thought was kind of funny. And then they head back to observe New York City again. And then Monroe shows him all the dead people that are walking around New York City. So he gets into that part of it, still thinking they're alive. And some people make a career out of helping these people move on. And the closest person I know to that would be Susan that's on here. She does a lot of that. She talks about it. Monroe takes BB to see the pile of humans that are having sex, but not to reproduce. So he takes them to that big pile like worms that they were to last time, and shows them how messed up some humans can be, and how the sexual drive just drives humans crazy, and how they're all just stuck in there trying to have this sexual energy, but not for reproduction reasons. And then one woman that is in the outer rings that he goes to, who was dead and lost. So he's BB's looking at this woman who's dead and lost that used to be human, saying, "Shit, that's all there is to dying. I don't see any God or angels. I knew it. Shit." And she's stuck in this cycle of can't believing that there's no heaven, no angels and stuff. She's all pissed off, stuck in this ring, saying this stuff. And then they visit a dead friend of Monroe's named Charlie, who made a copy of his earthly favorite place. So he lives in this ring, like the movie. Steph, what's your favorite movie there?
What dreams may come.
Yeah, What Dreams May Come. There's a situation like that where Monroe takes BB to go visit this person who's actually died and went to an other ring and made this whole world a duplicate of the world that he used to live in while he was alive and human. His name is Bill. He's a teacher and a helper on the outer rings and tries to help BB understand humans even more, especially emotions. So they get into emotions as the second most common problem that humans have to deal with besides survival. The next would be emotions. And at the end of the chapter, BB is trying to absorb this big rote from Bill that was tossed at him, his packet information, and just suddenly goes quiet. And Monroe heads back to his body. So now BB is stuck in this trying to understand emotion, human emotion, and that possibly BB might now start to experience emotions by looking at all this human stuff. So that's how the chapter ends. Would anybody like to comment, bring up anything? Chapter 14. Julie?
I was just going to say, I wonder if any of you have any recall or memory of being male, the opposite sex. I feel like every once in a while I'll wake up, I'll be in that state between sleeping and waking up, and I'll almost have amnesia, or like for an instant, like there's nothing in my, there's nothing in my brain, I feel like, and I almost feel like I can't, not only can I not figure out who I am, once in a while, it's like I almost feel like I was a man or somebody different. I was a completely different person. So, and then it just quickly disappears. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. I was just wondering if any of you have ever experienced that. And Marty, I still don't know who you are, because you check the chat. If you want to connect Facebook, check the chat real quick. Okay.
Does anybody want to respond to that? Do they have any?
Sorry.
Do they remember being a male or female in the past life?
Can you hear me, Juice?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Hey Lenny, I can hear you.
Lenny. Hey, Lenny.
Microphone better than it was the other day?
It still sounds kind of muffled, and it just comes and goes a little bit too.
I wanted to just mention or ask a question in a sense. How would a person, how could they identify as male or female? I mean, my limited experience is I was, I wouldn't, I was aware, I was very clearly aware of everything that I was observing and what was coming to me in various ways, but I never identified myself as anything. I mean, I didn't feel I was a person or a him or a her. I was just aware and experiencing what I was being aware of. I I was never hungry. I don't remember ever smelling anything. I almost don't even remember hearing. For me, it was all visual and mental. But I distinctly get the feeling that what was happening was I had left this physical blob with its physical senses and its physical based mind. And I was open to a much greater uh, amount of intuition and consciousness without all of this lower physical material gunk. And it felt, now looking back at it, that I was way beyond, um, identifying myself as a male or a female. But yet, there were a few times that I fell to the lower whatever and um, uh, woke up from a sexual dream. But I don't know if it makes sense to use him or her thing. You know what I'm saying? Leave it so easily that once we leave the physical, I don't think, there may be something somewhat similar, female, but not in a way that we would identify with.
Lenny, Robert Monroe brings that up. Like most of the people he meets, or a lot of the people he meets out of body, they have no concept of male or female. The Inspecs, the guys from KT95. So I get that of what you're trying to say. David, did you want to respond to the male female?
Yeah, but does that include dreaming?
Julie?
For me, it really wasn't about an out of body. It was just sort of a knowing on this physical realm. Like I said, it's mostly when I'm coming out of sleep.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I have no, for me, I don't doubt that there's non-gender in all kinds of realms. I think that, for us, being that we have, we identify with different genders, and I know the lower realms and the middle, and I'm not sure about the higher realms, but I mean, even on the middle astral realms, there's still a lot of people there that identify, apparently, again, I'm speaking from like astral travelers like Cyrus and Jurgen, and that there are people that do still identify as one gender or another. They're living out sexual lives, dating, whatever. But then there's apparently also on these same realms, ETs or aliens or extraterrestrials, however you want to call it. So, and I have no idea, it wasn't mentioned if they too identify with one gender or another. I'm just saying, it was just a curious thing. I was just wondering if anyone had ever experienced that peculiarity before, or the experience of sort of having amnesia right when you're waking up or coming out of it. There's one time I was in like a really deep meditation kind of a thing, and I felt like, I don't know if I'd shared this with you before, Juice, but I kind of felt like I had lost my mind for a minute. Not in a bad, not like a bad way. I just had no thought, like I had no thoughts for a little bit, and it was a little bit scary to have like zero thoughts, and I didn't. It was weird. It's hard to explain, but I was a little frightened. Anyway, I was just curious if anyone had experienced that.
Yeah, Julie, with the male-female thing, it almost seems like your hormones didn't come back online yet. You know, when you wake up, it takes a little bit for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
chemicals to reach you and say, "Oh, I have estrogen. Oh, I'm a female," or whatever.
Yeah, or just any kind of identification of,
Yeah,
of being who, Julie or whatever, which
right.
includes, oh yeah, I'm female. Oh yeah, I'm this. Oh right, I'm this. It kind of start all falling into place. Oh right. But there had been moments where I almost felt like, wait, there was like a second or something, like I felt like I was waking up as somebody else, but then it all clicked in like, oh no, wait, I'm Julie. I'm not this
Right. Yeah.
other thing or person or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. It's a very weird feeling.
Yeah. Makes sense.
My consciousness sort of coming online into this realm again or something.
David?
There's two things. Last night I had a dream that I had a dream that I was a Canadian female pilot to a wingman, a wing woman, I guess it would be called, to an American pilot, and it was pretty lucid. And they had a ceremony when we landed because of all kinds of other stuff. I couldn't figure that one out. It was just really lucid. But because of my cataplexy condition, I've had that. I don't know if it's similar to yours, Julie, but that amnesia thing at least over 30 times throughout my life. It happens when I would go into the states, into that the brain rhythmic activity in the delta wave, and then come out in a matter of I don't know, less than a millisecond. I will completely forget who I am, where I am, what I'm doing, all my emotional, physical, mental pain. At first, it was traumatizing to go through that as a kid, but by the time I reached my age now, I gotten so used to it. I started embracing how wonderful it feels to not remember anything on all that pain. Oh, that's all I got.
Thanks, David. Marty?
This is really getting into like science fiction realm, like, and I just wondered if any of you guys who have been out there in these different dimensions, have you experienced any of these kinds of things that Robert Monroe talks about? It's kind of getting hard to believe. How many people do believe all this stuff?
Yeah, Marty, what comes to my mind is you just gotta, what Robert Monroe does, you just gotta practice your ass off to a certain extent to keep working way up into these higher levels. He just keeps driving at it. I mean, building a lab research center and stuff like that, what great motivation. And then having these people around him that have such a drive to get out there. So I see it as just he was lasered in on this. Anyone
so
else?
You do believe him then, or you're saying?
It's every time I think I don't believe him, something comes up where it starts to make more sense. As it's like, why would he lie about this area but not about this area? It's got to be all. It comes to a point where it's like it's got to be all true, because this seems like it's accurate and true, and all the scientific data he's done on it. Why would he start, making things up eventually, unless he needed money or something for his research center?
Well, you're missing one important thing here. Everything he writes about is his experience, and as his experience varies, it may be 0.1% accurate, so to speak. It's like the 5 men meeting an elephant, the blind man, the deaf man, all those people, they all have a completely different experience, but yet they're experiencing the exact same thing because their interpretations vary. And my understanding from, again, my limited experience is this, that we are using almost an infinitesimally small mind to interpret something almost infinitely greater than that. Meaning, if we're studying an oak tree, we are only seeing a shadow of one leaf. To me, that's the difference. That Monroe's experiences may be the leaf shadow, because his ability to comprehend the true objective reality is limited by his mind consciousness. So, you know, and if he's seeing the shadow of the leaf, and somebody else is seeing the same oak tree but now sees a little branch, that little branch now is a three-dimensional, completely, absolutely different from that little one-dimensional shadow. And yet they're both basically looking at the same thing. So that's why I think I have no doubt he's being completely legitimately honest. What is that noise? So weird. Anyway.
Lenny, you know, Robert Monroe talks about that leaf that you're talking about. He actually experiences that in the next chapter.
This whole idea is really important, and yet it brings a whole other question into play, and that is, do we have any possible way of ever understanding anything? I mean, to be honest. And you know, when I read his books and think back, his experiences, what really intrigues us is his experiences are clearly from a physical mind. You know, he describes these entities in a way that we would describe, you know, something around us. And it would almost be like he could write a one-page book and say, listen, there's no way I can put any of this into words. You know, I've tried, and it's completely impossible. So I'm not writing 5 books. I'm writing a sentence. I can't communicate it, but he does it. And I'm not saying that he was fooled, but, you know, to some degree, when we have a legitimate experience, which a lot of people do with OBEs, and we all have this experience in this physical, and we're only getting a fraction of this data, you see, right here, and we're probably getting an even less amount there, and we're trying to make something from it. You know, we're trying to
right.
the oak tree from the shadow of the leaf. Anyway,
Yep.
I give up.
David, after David, I'm going to move into chapter 15.
Thanks, Juice. I just want to say I really kind of enjoy what Leonard shared there. Mimic some of that. Agree with mimicking some of that stuff he was saying. I also want to say the last week, and this has happened to me in the past. I've been having lucid dreams, and then last night I had a conscious dream when I woke up and I was walking around, and they had all these people around it, touching a little bit about what Marty's asking, and I had all these people around me, and they looked dazed, and I would run up to them. I said, "Okay, Dave, you're dreaming. You know what you can do." And I would start shaking them and trying to listen, you're dreaming, you wake up. And they look really dazed and confused. And some of them started to wake up when I was doing that. Now, that's not the big deal about what I want to share. It's when I woke up from that, I had the weirdest feeling. Like, I definitely don't know what's really happening when I'm going to sleep. Like something is going on. And I have really not much of a clue, or that much of a clue of what's really going on when I go to sleep. And and it was quite intense this morning, but I've been having that all week long. So just wanted to share that.
David, do you feel you're helping these people?
I didn't get that feeling. What I got was those individuals were really there. Like my focus was on trying to help them. Like I want to say not intuitively. Yeah, I had this intuitive feeling, because it's not hard. I can't say it was hard coded, not intuition. It was intuitive to just go up and shake them and wake them up. And I saw some of them coming out of it. I said, listen, you're dreaming. You can wake up, because I was conscious again in that one. And when I woke up from that, and then I had the other dream about the being a pilot and everything. I had this weird feeling. All week I've been having this weird feeling, and I've had it before. It's so strong. And I just this feeling like everything I believe that's going on when we go to sleep is not exactly what's going on.
Mm. And Monroe talks about that too.
Oh,
You know, about the schools and all the stuff that goes on that we can't remember.
right.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, Juice.
Okay, guys, gonna move into chapter 15, last chapter of the night. The Promised Plan. Monroe has his OBE, and he heads out to the usual Inspect meeting spot. Monroe realizes he will never go to the place where they came from until he's dead. So Monroe does feel he can go to where the Inspecs are coming from, but not until he loses his physical body. So the Inspecs tell Monroe that they do learn from him, which surprises Monroe, that they're actually, and we kind of talked a little bit about this before, earlier tonight. So guess what? The Inspecs are going to take Monroe beyond to the year 3000, where humans are called H+, abbreviated for human plus. So there's the human plus humans in the year 3000. When he gets to Earth, he's now following the Inspecs around Earth in the year 3000. Most of the rings were missing, so all those rings that were around the Earth are now mostly gone, except for one. There's no M-band noise; that's all gone. There's no ships, there's no aircrafts, there's no skies, there's no cities, etc., etc. Everything's basically gone, and the noise was gone too. And so he asked the Inspecs what's going on, and they say that there's a lot fewer people, but it doesn't say how many few humans are left on Earth, but there's a lot less of them. So Monroe starts to follow the Inspecs over many of the continents, and there's no real sign of life, just some organized plant life in different areas. And then the Inspecs drop him off in a physical body that is naked. So suddenly the Inspecs put him into a physical body back on Earth. And Monroe has never experienced having a physical body like this while out of body that felt so real. So this was new to him. And guess what? Monroe meets up with BB again. So BB is he's back at Earth. And they're back at Monroe's old home area, the Blue Ridge in Virginia, where his Monroe Institute is. When Monroe looks around his old neighborhood there, he noticed a lot has changed. There's a lot more trees and a lot more water. And I guess because of the climate change, the water has flooded a lot of the Earth. And then Monroe gets into the reball. He finds out what a reball is, something new that humans are doing here on Earth. And if you've done the Gateway program, the reball stands for Resident Energy Balloon. So that's how humans protect their bodies when they go out of body now. They put up an energy resident balloon around their body, and it keeps stuff away from them. Viruses, colds, anything cold that could hurt them. It's like a hibernation. So going out of your body is a lot more common now when he gets back to Earth. You don't need a house and you don't need cities to live in anymore. You just can park your physical body underneath a tree somewhere if you want and have an out-of-body experience there. So you get a mixture of out-of-body and physical life. So now Monroe starts to play Follow the Leader with BB again, which was BB's favorite game back in KT95. And the Earth has basically been restored back to its original ecological balance. So basically, with a little bit of human interaction, the Earth is just basically untouched with human cities and cars and pollution, and all that stuff is now gone. And guess what? If you leave your body, you can take over somebody else's body. So if you're a human, you leave your body, and somebody else could take your body, and you can go take their body. So you can take whatever body you want. and say there's no body to go back to, which Monroe asked, what happens if you go back and there's no body? You can just make another body, physical body. And basically you do this until you graduate Earth. You are basically like honeybees gathering loosh in the year 3000. Next, they head to the Earth entry point again. That's where Ed was, the entry point. And there's some changes there. Basically, there's only one-timers now that come to Earth. Everybody's in the year 3000 is basically a one-timer. There's no old-timers, there's no seekers, there's no last-timers. Suddenly, Monroe starts to wonder, where is AA? If you remember way back, AA went to become human and reincarnated and kept coming back as different humans and experiencing life on Earth, and he's wondering where he's at. So BB wants to play Follow the Leader and have some fun, and maybe AA will follow them. So Monroe, they go on this long adventure now on Earth. Monroe is experiencing being a fish. He experiences being a leaf on an oak tree, which Lenny was talking about earlier. He experiences being a panther. He experiences being a bird. He experiences other different little adventures with BB. And then then Monroe starts to wonder, when humans leave this Earth as one-timers, he's not sure where they go. Neither does BB. He doesn't know where they go. And then Monroe heads back to his body. But this gets a little confusing. He heads back to his body, but it's the wrong year. It's 1982. And since this book came out in 85, it seems like he came back into the past. And basically the whole time he was out on this whole adventure of this long adventure that he's just been on for this last out-of-body experience in this chapter, it was only 8 minutes long on human time. And he couldn't believe how long it was and how quick it was on Earth. And that's how the chapter ends. So, who would like to comment on any of this stuff? Julie?
Wild.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Wild. You know, the time thing, I'm wondering to myself, just as you said it, I wonder if the higher frequency we travel to, or our consciousness focuses on, the less time it correlates to here on Earth. That's just a thought. It's interesting, the future Earth being less populated. I was thinking to myself, because I had heard that one of the reasons it's so heavily populated right now is because it's so attractive to consciousnesses or souls, whatever you want to call it, in terms of learning experiences because of the intensity. It's just a short, intense period that you can, apparently, according to these sources, learn and sort of grow, if you will, so much in such a short period of time. And so if humanity evolves, which is a wonderful thing, if humanity evolves to that sort of level that we're talking about here, there wouldn't be as much of a, desire for entities, consciousnesses, or whatever to incarnate, because it'd be like, okay, well, yeah, it's not that, there's not, it wouldn't be as attractive as far as learning experiences. I don't know if that makes sense, but for me, I'm like, kind of resonated, like, yeah, that does kind of make sense. And then the one-timers instead of the several timers, if, again, this goes back into some of the law of one density. I try to do, I try not to glom onto one teaching or another, but try to put them all together, the things that make sense and
Right.
resonate and interlink and weave into something kind of that makes sense. That would be, yeah, I guess you would, if the Earth is evolving to a fourth density earth rather than the third densities. Apparently it already has evolved into a fourth density, but humanity too is following along and evolving into this fourth density consciousness. Yeah, perhaps that would make sense. You just hang out here one time, then you move on to your next experience on another realm. Anyway, I'm throwing a bunch out there that maybe y'all haven't even heard before, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, Julie, you got the good. I like your mixture of comparing things. Anyone? Well, guys, it's 8:30. I was wondering, does anybody have any final thoughts they would like to talk about before we close the night? Of course, you can always leave whenever you want.
I'm just going to say again to Marty, I sent you some information in the chat box. I really feel like you would benefit, your heart would benefit by listening to someone more like Jurgen, Z-Way, and maybe even, Cyrus Kirkpatrick. I really feel like you would benefit by joining that group that I mentioned in Facebook. It's just, these are people that have, for me, of course, I'm very, I'm so open and I'm very trusting of people. I'm pretty trusting of people. Although I guess I'm not the most skeptical person, but I try to be, it's harder for me to be skeptical maybe than open. But I really trust Cyrus and Jurgen, and they've talked to people who've passed on. And I think there's a lot of hope and beauty and joy to be derived and just from listening to their experiences. So that's why I just want to encourage you, because I just love your heart and soul and want you to be hopeful and encouraged. All right, that's my piece.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
The next meetup will be on Friday. And we have the last two parts, chapter 16 and the epilogue we're going to read. So two parts of the book. And then Friday is going to be questions and answers. Robert Monroe does a Q&A on Far Journeys, which should be interesting. And that'll be on Friday. I know a lot of people like Q's and A's. So that should be an interesting night. Anyone else would like to say anything?
I would.
Sure, Monica.
I posted a link in the chat room about an article that I saw, which might be interesting. It's about a 1983 CIA report on the Gateway experience. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not.
Great. We've talked a little bit about that through the books here, but it's always nice for somebody who hasn't seen it. Can definitely check the link out there in the chat. Thank you, Monica, for putting that there.
Sure.
Anyone else?
Has anyone seen the Monroe Institute docu-movie?
What's that, David?
I'm getting the title right now. Rob Monroe is in it, actually. I believe it's called The Path from Beyond, but I'm going to double check that right now.
While he's doing that, has anybody seen Behind Her Eyes?
No.
I've heard people talking about it, Marty, since nobody here has seen it, and they said it's kind of Hollywood a little bit. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I thought was far out was that they were possessing a different person's body, and I thought, oh, you can't do that. And now Monroe said that they were doing that in his lab. Did he not? I looked back and was trying to find it, but I thought I read that they could put their consciousness into a different body.
Yeah, they definitely did that in the Gateway program, the Explorer series.
Yeah, it's a little hokey. Like when people would go back into their body, they do a great big gasp, like, it was goofy like that. But it had a pretty good twist at the end. So it's on Netflix.
I think a lot of movies and a lot of work came out of Monroe's books. compare. I bet you a lot of these movies coming out today and in the past 20 years have been off bits and pieces of his books. I'd like to do a comparison one day of all the books and movies that relate to his books. Anybody else?
I just want to know if I missed Lenny telling us what the truth is. 'Cause we've been waiting.
Lenny's still searching for the truth.
Doggone it.
What'd you say, Lenny?
There is no
Oh,
truth.
here's-
There's the absolute absence of untruth. That's it. The absolute absence of untruth. You cannot not define the truth.
I posted the Internet Movie Database link as well as I can't even say it's a short summary. So
Oh,
if I over that,
awesome.
it's there. And the name of the movie is The Path Beyond the Physical.
Oh, yes.
I've never seen it. It's currently available on Gaia. I actually considered getting Gaia. I don't know, one of those trial periods just to watch this film because I would really like to see it.
Yeah, David, me and Jason, we went to the premiere when they
No.
released it.
No way.
Yeah, in Austin.
That is cool, man.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
met the yeah.
We get copies of all three of the DVDs, I think.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you, David, for posting that information there.
All
That's
good, my
it's a
pleasure.
great one. All right, everybody. I hope to see you on Friday and also Monday when we do questions and answers. I think that's going to be a fun one. They're all fun. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Juice, thanks for hosting us all, and thank you everyone for sharing.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
Night, John Boy.
I love that mask.